Now, why Miatas?
It's an interesting question. So, the reality of it is I'm a 6'3" tall black guy who drives one of the smallest cars on the road. And people ask me why Miatas all the time, and the only answer I can really give them is drive one.
So what's your name?
My name's Alex Compton.
And what do you drive?
What don't I drive? I just bought a new F-150. Got Acura TSX, and the reason I guess why we're talking of, I got a issue with Miatas. I got 6 of them. So.
Now, how'd your passion for cars start?
Honestly, people ask me that question all the time, and recently, I've always told people I have no idea. I'm the only person in my family who's all about cars. But looking back, I had a great aunt who, ironically, has been a great influence with me in cars, especially with the Mazdas. She always had RX-7s and stuff like that, so that's how I got exposed to sports cars. And then we had a family member who worked for Maserati, and that was it for me.
What is your favorite thing about Miatas?
Driving them, actually. They're a blast. They're super responsive. You can drive like a total idiot on the street and no one pays attention to you because you're in a little red roadster. And you know, everyone, it's not always about horsepower. They corner like nothing else out there, especially for the money. And that's the main reason why. They're just fun.
What was your favorite Miata you ever owned?
Actually, ironically, I have 2. Of the white one, which is outside, I bought that car. That was the second Miata I ever had, and I will never get rid of that car. My grandfather passed away, and he left me a little bit of money, so I bought that car, and that's how I kind of really got into the Miata scene. And that car's going to end up being a track car. And then I recently bought a 96 off of somebody down in Philadelphia, and I bought it to sell it, and then I drove it, and I was like, no. So, yeah.
How many Miatas have you owned?
Oh, geez. A good estimate is probably between 10 and 15.
You own it right now.
How many I have right now is 6.
And what's the most you ever owned at one time?
It was always 3. I hovered around 3, but now it's always 6. So I will buy 2 cars, and then I will sell them, then I will go out and find 2 more cars, and that's kind of what the pattern's been.
How do you feel about the different generations of each Miata?
I'm a purist, to be honest with you. I love the NAs. I'm starting to dabble with the MBs a little bit, just because their costs came down. Anything after that for me is cool. I do like the NCs and I love the ND, but you know, the first gens are where my heart is and will always be. The pop-up headlights and you know, the light, you get the true lightweight experience. And the responsiveness. You don't have all the ABS and safety gear that the new cars have, so it's like, you know, I wouldn't want to hit some of the newer cars that are out there, but it's, you know, it's probably one of the most purest driving experiences that you get, especially for the money.
How do you feel about the Fiat 124?
Oh, that's a great question. Honestly, I think the car's ugly as hell. I do have to admit it's starting to grow on me. I think the power plant in that car is really what's going to be the game changer. The fact that it's turbocharged from the factory. I think it's going to be curious to see what some of the companies do with that car, like Flying Miata and 949 Racing and all those guys. I think it's great because it exposes a Miata to a different genre of people, and it's a unique experience. I think ultimately it's going to do very well. I think it's going to be a great car. I think it's going to be strange going to Miata meets and seeing Fiats, but you know, change is always good. So.
What do you say to people when they say Miatas are really underpowered and that's why they stay away from them and things like that?
You don't buy a car like this for the power. You asked me earlier, one of the reasons why I like these cars, I've always been a huge like pure sports car guy, like Lotus, MG, Alfa Romeo. A lot of those cars didn't have a lot of horsepower, but their handling and driving dynamics was just far superior. These cars, in the hands of the right driver, will take down cars that you wouldn't even think they couldn't even touch, especially on a windy road. Now, going straight, there's minivans that'll accelerate these, but on a twisty road, there's not much I can hang with them. But you don't buy one of these for the horsepower. And
now, how do you react to the stigma that this is a hairdresser's car?
Statistically, it's middle-aged men who typically drive these, so I think people who have that stigma just don't know. I can tell you a personal experience. When I got my white Miata, it was back in probably 04, 05, and all my friends had high horsepower STIs and Evos and all these crazy high horsepower cars. And I show up to a car meet with this little white Miata, and they were just kind of like, what the hell is that? And I was like, driving. And they came back and like, wow, this is fucking cool. And I said, damn, it was $2,000. So I tell people, like, if you don't knock it until you try it. It's not a hairdresser's car. It's the #1 selling roadster of all time. They just made their millionth one, and you can't go wrong if the car's been going on for what 20, 25 years now, and even if there's a lot of hairdressers buying them, if it's truly a hairdresser's car. And like I said earlier, just drive one and you'll see.
Being 6'3", I'm sure you get asked a lot. How do you fit in the Miata?
So I have a protocol for when I buy a car, and I plan to keep it. And so a lot of people who are familiar with Miatas are very familiar with the foamectomy, and that's where you cut some of the foam out of the seat. It drops you down a few inches. I go a little bit further than that. There's a lot of people don't know. The car doesn't have tilt steering, but there's a bracket that you can remove and actually raises the steering wheel up 2 inches. So that's my standard thing. And then for my track cars, I cut the humps out of the bottom, and it lowers me about 4 inches in the car.
How was the Miata made?
The Miata was actually created it was a joint venture between, this car was actually designed in California, #1. It was a joint venture between Mazda Japan and the US division. And what it was at the time, there was no fun sport car, like cheap drop top sports cars on the market. You had your upper class Mercedes, your Audi convertibles, your Porsche stuff, but they wanted to create that experience that happened back in the day with like the old MGs, the old British Roadsters. And this car recreates that perfectly, but you don't have those old car problems. You don't have the Lucas electronic issues. Like, you have very few electrical issues, especially with the NAs. They don't leak oil like those other cars do. If one of these is leaking oil, it's a cam seal. It's like a 50-cent part. So that's why I love them. You get that open top experience, and but you don't have the headaches of owning the older cars.
What would your recommendations be for anyone looking at Miatas?
Take your time. Especially now, because they're I think they're more popular, especially with the younger crowd. I'm 36, so they're more popular with the younger crowd now, and that's because of you've got Hager Garage, you got Adam LZ, his wife has one, Taylor Ray has one,
Evan Shanks.
Yeah, Evan Shanks, TJ Hunt, and his crew just got one. So there's the popularity, especially on the drift scene, because they're so damn cheap. But I would say take your time. The biggest issue you ever have to deal with is rust. And if you can, try to find one that doesn't have rust, but you're going to have to pay for it. And if they do have a little bit of rust, don't let that scare you off, and don't let the mileage scare you. I've had cars with 210,000 miles on it that run like a champ. I've got a buddy who had one that had 246 on it. He threw a turbocharger on it, never had an issue.
For anyone that's a future track day enthusiast, what are your recommendations for doing the first thing to do, the first modification, and a few other modifications when buying a Miata?
The first thing I would do is, even if you're autocrossing it, is I would put an aluminum radiator in it. Get a high quality one. They're worth the money. just because you don't have to worry about cooling. Because they'll even, the cooling system is one of the weak points on these cars, and it will start to overheat even at autocross. If the car overheats, the first thing you do is you pop the headlights up, because that will drop it down about 30 degrees. So if you ever go into autocross, that's why a lot of the guys run with their headlights up. Other than that, I would, if you're going to put the car on the track, definitely a roll bar. And they have what's called the broomstick rule. You have to be, I think it's like 3 to 4 inches under the roll bar, so you might have to modify your seating a little bit. And a good set of tires. A lot of people immediately throw coilovers and everything on the car. I'm a big proponent of just learn how to drive first. You'll see it at the track all the time. You'll have guys who show up in Porsche GT3s and some little dude in a Miata goes zooming right past them because that guy knows how to drive and has, learned to work with the car instead of buying something that the car's ability is here, the driver's level is here. So the biggest difference with these cars is shocks and tires.
What do you think is the best bang for your money modification to your Miata?
Learning how to drive. Getting out to an autocross is the best modification. You can turbocharge it, put the best coilovers, best tires on it, but if you don't know how to go around the corner, all that stuff is useless. So the biggest investment is you, to be honest. And remarkably, even on just crappy street tires, these cars will stick to the road when most cars won't. So I'd say that's the biggest modification that I would start off with. And then as you progress, you could add more and more to the car.
What are your future plans for Miatas?
The future plan is, with my own personal cars, is my 96 to make it a nice street car, which is, it's already 3/4 of the way there. My white one is to make it a nice track car, possibly do the Honda K-swap in it. That's up in the air if I want to, because if anything happened to that on the track, I'd probably be devastated because it means so much to me. But the plan is to keep buying and keep them on the road and keep exposing people to them. That's the biggest thing. We met because you bought a car from me. And I even tell people if they come look at the cars I have for sale and they don't want it, just keep in touch because, I can help you if you don't know a lot. I can go look at it for you or even help you get parts and you've got a basement full of shit. So. But I mean, the ultimate goal is to turn it into some type of business, and then get a couple that people can come drive on the track. So. Everyone loves them. I mean, you get stopped and people wave, and if you see another Miata on the road, they either flip their headlights up or you wave. And I've met so many people, including yourself, because of these damn cars. So. That's kind of the whole spirit of the Miata was that, and it was created to recreate, the old cars from the 50s and 60s. So.